Hello, everyone. Hello. We are back on air today. Stephanie, are you there?
Hello, everyone. Yes, I am here. How are you?
Hello. I am here as well. Let's just put it that way. Um, yeah, we're back. We had a rerun last time, and we had a few times where we didn't do the show, and it's our apologies. Um, we are going through transitions as some of us, and I believe something was has to do with our frequencies or God knows what. Like, in fact, only God would know what it was. Um, yeah, so I think it's that kind of interruptions, but it's okay. It's accepted. It's all okay because um, we're moving through something interesting nowadays, and that's what we are.
Gotta just go with
So,
the flow.
yes, and that's exactly what life is teaching us more, more, and more. And more we surrender and more we let go, and lighter we become, literally and not literally in frequency, which becomes literal, then a new a new arises, and that's where that's what we will be discussing today. So I'm very about this. So, Steph, do you want to chat about something before I go into our guest and the topic of the day? Let me know.
I really don't have a lot to share other than what we just talked about. Um, kind of just like you said, letting go, um, trying to, or not even trying to, releasing control, releasing fears, and just kind of like moving forward. I think I'm really excited about tonight's discussion because I think it'll bring a little bit kind of clarity to kind of everything that's going on, and how we
Mm-hmm.
should move forward from here. So I'm excited.
Awesome, awesome. Well, first, I guess I want to say is the topic of our show today is seeing the world for what it is and connecting to it without trauma, which you know it can be challenging, and I am one to confess for that because I've gotten beat up so much in the past, 6 months that I'm very self-aware nowadays of what and how to maneuver, or at least you know that's what I feel now, more grounded. So that's the topic, and of course we're gonna go more into conversation about humility and compassion and what it takes to actually break out of the previous you know 3D matrix and prism and create our new realms, a new way of living to move forward. um, and let me read about our guest. We did have Polina before on our previous platform, previous radio show, but this is our first time having her on Organic Frequency Radio. So, Polina Outkina is a psychic astrologer, ascension coach, and personal advisor. She helps people achieve freedom and connect to larger opportunity spectrum while keeping all aspects of the 3D grounded and in equilibrium. Polina's work mainly helps people clear karmic baggage and find shortcuts to get to the next point of their evolution. By looking at the world holistically, she's able to help people reform their patterns and help them evolve many parts of their world simultaneously. She enjoys both creating worthy and healthy changes in their world, as well as becoming more open and clear to learn from nature themselves and create their own very special connection. Polina has grown her presence through YouTube and sharing her insights via psychic blog. She is self-evolving practitioner, constantly learning through her own immediate experiences and inner world. Channeling, writing, prayer, and art are ways in which Polina teaches herself to evolve with the coming shifts, though being her own self expanding experiment. Her focus is possibility and self evolution, through which she helps herself and others to find new energetic, psychic, and physical terrains for growth, for love, and for living. So yes, very, very exciting. And I think Polina is in the studio, so I am not going to wait any longer and bring her on. And let's chat. Let's chat about all this good stuff. Hello, Polina. Are you there? Hello.
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everyone. How's it
Hello.
going?
Hello.
Hi, Polina.
I'm glad.
So nice to have you on.
Hi, guys. Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
How are you feeling today?
Yes, it is early in the morning. It's a nice, beautiful beginning. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an interesting feeling just before the show started, just like an interesting magnetic feeling. I really like this energy. It's really nice to meet you guys again. It's really beautiful to be on the show. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot has changed since we had you last time.
Yeah. So what's going on with you guys?
We are pretty much kind of doing what you're doing.
All right, cool.
Yes, by looking at your videos, I think we're kind of on a similar, dissociation with the previous, re-entering the new, connecting with the source, connecting with ourselves, starting new patterns, I'm hoping. And kind of similar, yeah. It's, you know how it is. I don't know if Stephanie wants to add something to it. Yeah, please. But yeah.
Yeah, things have just been really, really interesting. Like Oksana said, just like a lot of falling away of like old things, habits, patterns, people, and just trying to move forward with all of this.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I mean, at times it felt like I was walking yesterday on the beach, and I was watching, and it was such a beautiful day, and I was watching beach volleyball everywhere, and like a thought crossed my mind. I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel like I was that, volleyball just a few months ago, bouncing, bouncing between people, getting like wet in the water, and then dishwasher and the dryer, and like there's so much that has happened internally and externally that forced me repeatedly to step into my power, to empower myself, to connect to my core, and it's just internal work, internal job to to really start not being connected to the traumas, either personal traumas and collective. So that's what would love to chat with you about today is how do we move forward from the point of being. And I don't want to, when I say purity, I'm not saying nothing is there anymore, but at least from the conscious level, we understand that anything that is being triggered or, moved within us, it's always the point to look within. So we get to the point of where there's nothing there, hopefully, eventually, or sooner than later. So what do you have to say, Polina, What I know your last video was very powerful. I'm still um, kind of playing with that in my head. But like, what are your take on how do we move forward after we somewhat cleared out our emotional baggage and trauma, and how do we live in this world that is still full of it? And how does it work? From your perspective,
I think
from
it
your
depends.
side.
I think it depends on the type of experiences a person has had, and it also depends on their family line. Sometimes there's a really long karmic line in the family, and I feel for us, people who are evolving and constantly working on these types of things, it's not very hard to commit to it so much that we forget about our everyday. So we can become endless ancestral baggage clearers, and we can also become endless healers of others as well as ourselves. And then it's not very easy then later to hold on to this particular here and now. And it feels to me that here and now is basically all it is about, and sometimes to kick oneself out of the past and to forward oneself into the now is not very easy, especially as we grow older, because also with the moon, the development of lunar cycles, the lunar self, especially for females, we don't sometimes know how to go forward without referencing the past. It's just part of the biology, it's part of the unconscious on this planet, so we're referencing ourselves through space and time, and it's not very easy sometimes to find clear spots to manifest completely new realities. So what I mean is not entirely true for everybody, but for most women, it's not very easy to start again, and to clear oneself. And also, we've got this, I suppose, cult of the future or cult of the now, and its own dimension happening as well. So people are trying to live today, and people are trying to be positive and optimistic and beautiful and everything to be in the right place, physically and socially and energetically and psychically. And it's not very easy sometimes to see that we can't forgive ourselves completely. Also, sometimes to be in the now is very, very difficult for us as a species, because we carry a lot of burdens and karmic responsibilities. But here's how I feel is the easiest way to do it, is basically to commit to the moment and to feel grateful for it, and to respect the value of the now, to understand that sometimes it is all that we have. And then this becomes a very, very soft energy. At first, it's very diligent and very pragmatic, but then it becomes very soft. So living for the now and actually being completely present in the now and allowing oneself to unfold as one would. So not trusting oneself too much to rely on past knowledge and past information cycles in order to bloom in the now. So not like, well, what would Polina say? What would I do? It's just being serendipitous and in the moment, being in the moment most of the time. But then this becomes very, very unhealthy sometimes, as we can become very, very upset if the moment is not what we want or not what we feel, because we basically put all our cards on the table for the now. And we want to be here and now, and sometimes it could be very challenging for us, especially if there is past inconsistencies. And then there needs to be faith and automatization eventually, I feel, where we trust ourselves in the moment without having to question everything that we do. So it's more about the practice of presence and the practice of being truthful in the moment. So we don't have to think about the past or who we were even back a few minutes ago and trying to create a consistent journey based on who we've been. But this is not entirely true either. So there is like a balancing between who we are as a person, what we understand of ourselves, and being in the now. So it's not about total loss of memory. Like, it's not about creating goldfish memory. It's just about pointing out those points to yourself, creating a new image for you of you sometimes over and over. So remembering your own integrity and your own value and your own peace as a person. So starting there perhaps for some people is good. And then this joins on to the now in a very, very fresh and serendipitous way. But it is more than that. There's also a lot of work that sometimes we have to do that is therapeutic. Occasionally people have to talk these things out. Sometimes people have to bang some pots and pans around and make some music or make some noise. Occasionally people just have to laugh. Sometimes people just have to cry. People have to have some kind of also inertia-based experience to trust their own impulse, because it feels to me that through the interdimensional work and the system of control that we're in at the moment between those two, there's not a lot of power, not a lot of energy, and not a lot of frequency flying around. And then how to generate that, how to generate freedom. It's also about financial freedom, personal freedom, how to be free, how to get free, how to break out of all of this is basically through occasional intensity and allowing oneself to be dramatic, allowing oneself to cry, or letting oneself dance. Becoming more able to not know what the feeling is and not really having to define it. And sometimes tears will turn to laughter, which will turn to silence for days and days. And sometimes that will become wisdom, and sometimes it'll become art, and it'll become lots of different things. So allowing the time, the eventuality of the moment not to be that important, because it feels to me that sometimes we're chasing after ourselves, like we're chasing after a product. And we're starting to become perhaps aware of this in the new age as we're trying to clear ourselves so much that we're not really looking for ourselves. In the end, we're kind of looking for a presentation or a picture-perfect version of who we come to be or what we can be. And sometimes they can be reached, but the moment is lost. And life is spent in between. But sometimes that's what generations of us have to do, because otherwise we don't really see what we've become as a species. And yes, occasionally there will be people that will put their life on hold and try and figure these things out and resequence themselves in a very serious way through yoga, breath, meditation, and other practices, other things like that. And just presence, just learning to be present. I mean, if it takes 40 years to learn to be present, maybe that's all it is. But then for some of us, we have to mix and match. And then I feel for all of us, there is a different focus and purpose. There is a different type of energy that we can evolve through. And for many of us that have broken free already, perhaps there is no dogma to this. Perhaps there is just an eclectic experience through which one learns to trust a psychedelic life they're living. So this becomes eventually like a Terence McKenna reality, where we're basically in a state of flux all the time and letting life take itself through us and beam itself through us in such a serendipitous and crazy way that we perhaps cannot predict. And we do not know what we will feel. And that's a very challenging, very fragile state, because it's creating a very sensitized, super real, hyper-real psychedelic experience, which is where we actually are all the time. It's just that we try to cover it up with memories, and we try to cover this up with a feeling of trauma sometimes. And this is because life is too good. So at the end, that's what it sort of comes down to, is that we are afraid to feel because the body is so sensitive. We are so like laughing and crying all the time. There's a state of the soul that is constantly in flux, and it's a pure psychedelic state. So if we're talking about purity, it is like the state of Siddhi. It's like the state of the saint, but this is not a perfect state for all of us yet, because to be there, it's very, very powerful, but also when we're there, we're also at the most disempowered state, because we can't go to work, we can't even laugh or cry, because the feeling in itself is too pure to challenge with even thought or action. So that's where we inevitably are in the end anyway. So this is the state of Siddhi. This is the state that we go into when we die. And this is not the point. I guess the point is, because this is a learning experience, it's a really interesting emotional experience for a lot of us to live. The point is not to get to the Siddhi. I feel it is not about, getting beyond and above, where you're just crying and laughing at the same time and feeling all things as pleasure. That's a very perfect state for us sometimes to remember ourselves through. And there are psychedelics and other out-of-body experiences, ways to touch the state. And sometimes people get this through prayer, or just through remembrance of childhood, or remembrance of love, or just the feeling of joy. But this gets very hard to remember as we grow older, because we're asked to forget. But the point is that sometimes we don't know what we've got till it's gone. It's like we look back at our last year, and we might already define it differently. We might see it more positive and more optimum and all of that. So sometimes we've got to compare and remember ourselves chronologically just to get the feeling of joy again. I guess, but the point is not success, because at the end, there's always going to be the same state, and the state of Siddhi of purity, of total purity, is laughter and tears at the same time. So it can never just be joy. There's always like the sensitive feeling, like the ongoing on, like it's almost like the endless orgasmic state, or like the endless state of absolution, which is always pleasure and pain simultaneously, or it's got parts of all things within it. So if we really go to the total quantum state, it is beyond joy, which is beyond pain, and then in the end, there is a silence. So we can always get there just by creating moments of silence in our life, just to remember. But sometimes we don't want to believe until we experience or create something really super hyper dimensional for ourselves. But it feels to me that the choice is yours as to how you navigate. I feel that simplicity is great, and at the end, coming back to the fact that you're enough, everything is where it should be. Nothing's missing. Nobody needs to be elsewhere. Nobody is not coping. Nobody's not well. Like nothing is. How can I say? Nothing is critical. Everything is where it is, and then we can turn this into our sense of the world. So when we are looking at ourselves and saying this is enough, this is fine, and to understand also that totally pure and totally quantum, we cannot be for long. Unless we like have a intense drug experience and go into the afterlife, or go into really high dimensional waves. Like it's really hard to retain and hold that feeling and all that energy. So it feels to me that when we are looking at ourselves and we're allowing ourselves not to be there all the time, we allow ourselves not to be in the God state all the time. We are not really here to experience that all the time, and letting ourselves experience all these memories and thoughts and trauma sometimes as well add another dimension to the picture of ourselves. And then say when we are looking at the world after this, we can see that it's all perfect and it's all exactly as it should be. And though there are all these different encompassing traumas, there's all these different circulations, of negative energy and positive frequency as well, and all its different faces, all these different masks, or what looks like a masquerade sometimes. We sort of come back to ourselves in the end and see that in the end we will miss this. Even if we are on the perfect plane, we'll look back and we'll miss this because we'll see perhaps with backward thought that it was beautiful and there was no frustration. What is frustration now will one day become a beautiful thought. At the end of the day, when we are 80, we will be 80 years old, we'll be old. And we'll be looking back to ourselves now and thinking, okay, I used to think so much, I used to try so hard, but I was so beautiful. I had all the things in the right places. I had my feet, I had my hands, I had my body, and I had the breath of life, and I had the giggles, and I had life, like life force just beaming through me, And then we'll remember ourselves as we are now in a totally different type of energetic state than what we are now to ourselves. So as we are looking now at ourselves in the future, perhaps we're seeing a pyramid somewhere that we've got to climb, and that's the issue with this world, is that everything's pyramidal. People think there's a hierarchical foreground, somewhere we've got to get to, somewhere we've got to clear to, but it's not. It isn't. It's more like, wow, this is the state of me, and sometimes we forget that this is not going to be a permanent state, and we disconnect from ourselves, we disrespect ourselves, and we try to be something better than we are. But then when we will think of ourselves back, we'll think, oh my gosh, I was like the most beautiful, perfect energy, and I didn't really want to speak out, or I didn't want to really see myself for all that I was. And then it comes with regret, and then that's why people move on, and they don't forget themselves, and they keep on living countless lives trying to remember something. But all we've got to do is basically respect the moment of innocence that we have at the moment, and not to connect that too much to something else, something we don't have or something we never received, because this is an ongoing cycle. But at the same time, in youth and beauty completely within itself, we cannot be totally enough energetically within that moment. It has to be the moment. Sometimes, it's beyond us. The moment dictates its own vibration, and these feelings sometimes we cannot totally be responsible or accountable for. Occasionally, it is not even us that feels or understands or perceives. Occasionally we are quantum consciousness, and we are the collection of all beings in this world, and we don't even know it. So that's what it is, not making it personal, like me, I can't do this, or like I cannot get to the state, or like I cannot stop feeling sad. It's not just your stuff or my stuff, it's not anybody else's stuff. It's just a collection of frequency and how it distributes itself for all beings, basically. So, yeah, that's basically the thing. The question or the answer to the question.
So
Everything's a
to
question.
kind of like to kind of sum it up, I guess. And I mean, yeah, like when we, you know, kind of get to the point of balance, right? In regard to the feelings and trauma and all that stuff, it's pretty much connecting to the moment and really just being fine with the moment and just, you know, find specific individual happiness, you know, joy and happiness in that moment. Like, you know, whether I'm dancing or writing or on the beach or making love or like anything, right? I mean, that's pretty much the point of it. Not pushing life, but flowing with life. I mean, that's kind of what, you know, because we've pushed life for way too long until we realize, right, that what the heck are we doing? What's the point of pushing life and being stressed and tired and going nowhere and doing the cycle over and over and over again, right? When we're just speaking like just basic human, but just like being in our body, like the point of it is just being freaking happy. I mean, like just being okay, being good, whatever that means, good for whoever, right?
Yes. This is beautiful. I feel that sometimes we get really lost between all the different media and all the different mind as to what is happiness and what is the true meaning of spending of time, you know. And this is where my stuff, you know, my stuff comes out. You know, this is my crazy stuff, you know, like for me personally, like I question the integrity of my moments because it feels to me that there is a lot of suffering and there's a lot of bliss in the modern world. And there's a very interesting proposition that we have with ourselves, you know, with the planet, everything like that. And then I think, what is my joy? Is this another person's unhappiness? And it keeps on kind of going on. And I sort of, you know, like it's like I touch my soul, I touch my being with disrespect there. I feel a lot because I try to make it about the world, but it isn't. Sometimes it is just about the now. And where you've been placed in this now is not what it seems. It's a quantum network of beings and situations and algorithms that got you there. So there's nobody really perhaps realizing this or connecting to this, but this is a giant machine. You know, this is a big mechanical system of life that we're in. It's an algorithmic system. And to be unpleased with where you are and to be dispassionate or, you know, unhappy or sad or depressed or disappointed about life, which sometimes happens to me quite often actually, is not entirely bad either. It is just a program. We are going through a program state without knowing that we have dreamt this before, we programmed this before, but that goes into, you know, the theory of the, you know, multiverse, you know, the universe and how it works and how it dreams itself to sleep. It dreams itself to sleep as it is all just a dream. But yeah, in terms of having just a human life, it is just about acceptance of where you are. And it's something that I've been thinking about recently. It's like the more we accept the moment and the more we soak up the moment like fine wine. We've got Jupiter retrograde in Scorpio at the moment. Just the moon is in Scorpio as well. And this is just such a perfect time to release this need to be like a flurry or like a difference to yourself now. So releasing the need to be elsewhere, despite of where you are, and then with that feeling comes a grandness of yourself. So it's like releasing all the different people that you might have wanted to be for your life based on media or based on the global psychosis of opportunity that we're under at the moment. That's the feeling of the age, it's the spirit of the age, wanting to be all these different things and trying so hard and doing so much and trying to subjectify oneself to like something, you know, like we all do it on some level in the modern world. But then, like, say, with the ambitious less feeling, so not feeling ambitious in the now, and just soaking it all up like a fine wine, well, that comes like a greater connection, greater concentration. And then other things fall away. So this is how we sort of gain celestial maturity, I suppose, not really, on some level. So that we no longer worry about where we've come from. We no longer like worry about certain aspects of ourselves, because they're all that which makes us in this moment. So it's like learning to respect oneself as like a fine wine in the here and now, and letting maturity set in, which then makes everything okay. You know, like it takes hurt, you know, it takes passion, it takes shadow, it takes fermentation, it takes fragmentation to form a soul, to form one's own new perspective of innocence. And this is basically the crux of it, is the universe, God, or creation divinates itself, divines itself through innocence. So the innocence of the now is basically what it's all about.
I get it, because I mean, you know, because I totally get it. Yeah, I mean, I experienced quite a bit of moments where I was so dissatisfied as well, and I actually have found some satisfaction in my dissatisfaction, or at least I hoped that I did. You know, because life can be very dissatisfying, especially when you do connect to the bigger picture of it and see what's playing out there and how you are connected to it, you know. Just even my personal stuff, so many letdowns and, you know, fallouts and all of that. But when, you know, you do find, because when you look at the bigger picture and you see yourself within that, you understand that, you know, it's all playing out the way it's playing out. And I guess that takes me to a question for you to kind of elaborate on, is speaking of, you know, how synchronicity works, right? How something happens which you hoped didn't happen, but it happens, and then of course it leads to another. And we actually brought that up, or we wanted to bring that up last show, but we didn't. How, you know, we start connecting as beings on a different level. Like, for example, you know, we all find our personal gifts and joys and whatever we go through, you know, and how do we start connecting on a different level? Because that's what's been happening. There's a lot of disconnections been happening because of this. You know, a lot of beings are evolving and growing, and there is a lot of them that are not, and there's a huge disconnect, which is, you know, it's painful. It's painful. But then when you do look at the bigger picture, you understand, as an evolved kind of being, you understand why it's happening. So how do we start connecting more of on a different level? And I mean, since now we are becoming true to ourselves, you know, we feel life through our heart and through our being, and perhaps that's the point where we connect. That's the point how we start creating this new way of being as a more collectively, I guess, more as a community. What are your thoughts on that, or feelings, or take?
It's really interesting. For some reason, I just had a picture in my mind of those staining colors, like these certain pigments that they use in India, these amazing powders. And when I think of certain things, sometimes I just remember, you know, the Festival of Lights, you know, people throwing pigment at each other. And what I mean here is that people stain each other. You know, we stain each other. We stain each other with thoughts. We don't even know that we're thinking sometimes. Even say residing at a place, or, you know, being somewhere very stable, sometimes we don't like our neighbors, or we don't really feel completely held by the people that we come across at the shops and things like that. And it's very, very harsh. But it is all just about attention and the quality of your moment. Say, for example, if you're going to the grocery shop and you are surrounded by really crazy people, somebody's yelling, or somebody, you know, has a very uncomfortable situation, it would be very easy to feel like hell. You know, it's like, here's my garden, here's my secret garden. But then when I go out there to the crowds, or I go and I walk between people, I feel afraid or I feel sorry, and I feel that there is a lot of disconnection and pain and fear. But we've got to stay in each other, and we've got to stay in each other. And it's a very interesting thing I find about mind control and telepathy and everything like that, is that when we don't know we're doing it, is when we do it best. So when we have no intention to help somebody, we help them the best. When we've got no care about who's listening to us or who understands us or what belongs with us, we don't understand the context of ourselves. We do not need to define who we are in our minds when we do the most important work. So it's basically about concentration of the moment. So how we're talking about being present and being connected and feeling like a fine wine, feeling like you're distilling your energy with each now, and absorbing yourself and feeling good. And if you don't feel very good about what you see, it's just about feeling what it is like just to be you. It doesn't feel good sometimes because we think, oh, that's narcissistic or that's self-obsessed, but it's not. Sometimes it's just about this quality of the now. And for different people, it might feel like different things. For some people, it's just the feeling of breathing. It feels really minty, fresh, and cool, and that feeling could become almost like a tantra. It could become something that is very, very personal and very beautiful. And for another person, it's about noticing smells and colors and things outside of them. So it's just more about soaking up your moment and respecting yourself so full-heartedly that you don't really care to nurse anybody else. But then this becomes not the city that we need sometimes, to really cause change, because sometimes it can make us invisible when we are so in love with the now. We are vibrating at a completely different dimensional level, and this can sometimes disconnect us even further from society. So this is where we have faith in God, and this is when we have faith in faith in you. We have faith in each other. We have faith in the love and the beauty that we all share. So this is more about, especially this year, it's about music and dance, and it's about evolving one's own personal private worlds enough to be able to spill them out into the public eye. It's like evolution of oneself, perhaps from the position of just a person who's curious, or a person that carries, or a person who's curious about others, or just from an interest, like from a natural inclination, from a natural symptom, or like an episode that you have. Say, when you're out in the public eye, do you want to hold someone's hand? Do you just want to hug them? Do you want to just relax? So maybe it is taking it further into body work and practice and massage. Maybe if there's like a lot of tactile energy, taking that to the next limit of yourself. But if there's not, and then somebody, say, just notices patterns and colors around, maybe perhaps becoming an artist or becoming a person that creates, or like packages their reality into a brand. So it's just about finding some kind of self gratification. It's not even self gratification. It's the innocence of being oneself in purity, no matter what, through purpose and through the spending of time constructively as well, it feels to me. And this can be as unconstructive as you might like. It may not look constructive to others, or may not look constructive to you, but we're all in the process of construction. We're all creation. We're all creative. And we're all creating. So through creative experiences, we become like a virus. We become like a virus, a contagious smile, a contagious feeling, a contagious energy. And we cannot hold it for long. So whatever we have, we give to another. So another person might benefit through me, not by knowing what I'm saying, but through picking up on my gifts. And then perhaps they will begin to channel, they will begin to circulate light or circulate energy the way that I'm doing. So we're all contagious. We're all vibrating at a certain rate, and the truer we are to ourselves, the truer we are to nature of ourselves or in the world, and then the great galactic picture, which is inevitable. We're going to get there. We're all going to get there through our own exploration, our own truth, and our own humility and our own human feelings. Through however we are, we receive greater growth and greater compassion for ourselves and others. And then through this feeling of inner expression and inner feeling, even if we choose to express it outwardly and it seems like we're doing it for other people, it is always about this incredible tantric dance with your own soul, with your own makeup, with your own genomes, with your own body, with your own self. And then this is where contagious experiences happen, and we do not know it, but perhaps we talk to one or two people and we might feel very segregated or not known enough or not connected to enough people, to enough dreams or enough information. But this becomes a phenomena. We can perhaps contain ourselves, but we can pass on our knowledge or our spark to just one person, who then becomes a virus, like almost like a virus of love. And this is basically, for me, what it's about here. It's not really about following trends. It's not about groups. It is definitely no longer about spiritual New Age congregation. It is not really about trying to form some kind of lucrative and established reality through spiritual practices. It is not anything, like it's not about anger towards the world. It is not about trying hard. It is just basically vibration of what is true for you, and then expecting yourself to do nothing else but just to be yourself. And through relaxation and allowing of oneself to be here and now and to take it up as much space as you want. You know, it's just like, this is your world, this is your now. You're entitled. It's like you have this moment. This moment is for you. This is not to shun away from. This is not to be quiet. This is not to be loud. This is not to measure yourself. It's just letting you fill the space, you know, letting you fill more and more energetic space. And the growth of aura is very easy then. You know, it's like growing your aura. It's like growing your influence, because you don't need to do it for anybody else's ears. You don't have to do it for anybody else's connection to who they are. It's just inevitable. As you get more and more creative and connected within yourself, you inspire other people. And then this is not even on this level. It's unconscious. Like, say, I'm sure that there's probably people in a radius, you know, of 5, 6, 10, 20 meters that benefit energetically. Just as particles vibrate differently. It's all quantum science. So it's like how particles vibrate. They inspire each other depending on the frequency and the density of each. So that's basically it. So understanding your own worth of the now, and then through that evolving who you have become through space and time. And then this becomes a virus of connection. But everything is viral, so not to be afraid of this word virus. Everything is viral. We all have a viral consciousness. We all connect to each other, and we unconsciously, we all basically, we are pitching from the same cauldron, this collective conscious. We're all pitching in, and we're all taking from it. So everything is shared. Yeah.
It's interesting you're saying this. Thank you for elaborating. I've been receiving calls from people that, you know, supposedly interested to attend one of my workshops, and the main answer I receive when I ask them what do you want to get out of this workshop, and one main answer is I want to know what I'm here for, you know. Who am I? What am I? What am I doing here? So what is the best way then to go through the matrix? Because I mean, do you still consider that we are in 3-dimension, or we are in 4-dimension now? What is your take on that? Because there are some concepts that the Earth already transitioned, that there's no more 3-dimensional realm. And of course, my second to that is, how do we, you know, go through that without attaching to trauma of others and still continue our personal path, which you kind of already touched upon that, but still.
Okay, so this is actually something that a lot of people think about. So we have a very mathematical way of connecting to high and low frequencies. That's so, yeah, of course, you know, everything is matrix bound, so it's mathematically balanced. But the more we go into the fractals of life, like say, the more we go into the true psychedelic nature of everything, it is so busy, it is so intense, and sometimes occasionally it is predictable, but also on a larger scale, it's so incredible. Like, the matrix is so incredible. It is, like, if you've ever had a psychedelic experience, through plant medicine or anything like that. You may remember or may recall, there is so much of it that it is really hard to see the mathematics of it. And then say when we are here, it's not like an elevator. It is and it isn't. It's not entirely like an elevator. So going from the 3rd floor to the 4th floor in terms of dimensional shifts. I believe that we are all creating new consciousness webs. So we're all waking up to the moment differently. There's synesthesia that is very common. So like, say, hearing a color or smelling a sound. You know, people are becoming a lot more sensitized and a lot more hyper-real, but we don't really want to even see that we do it. So there are parts of us, I feel, that are all in 7th to 8th dimensional states. You know, I feel this and I can see this in other people. And then what sometimes like another person receives from me is not actually what I'm talking about, but it's the different frequencies in my voice. You know, so it might be the psychedelia behind my voice, or it might be the psychedelia in the moment in time. So we're all receiving messages from all over. It's just that we think very, very blandly about reality still, because it's what we've been taught. So, for example, when we are looking at science, you know, we just think it is that, and then when we're looking at spirit, we think it's that. So when we're looking, say, at the 3D, and we're trying to feel what is beyond it, what are the different dimensions, how it all works, it is very, very difficult to see, but it's basically in one's own perception. It's in one's own perception of reality, which we don't want to see, because it is too beautiful to see. And like, you know, how we're talking about the city state, you know, the state of crying and laughing at the same time, it's too sensitive. Like we are perhaps a little bit too in love, like we feel a lot more like in love with the moment, and it is so beautiful sometimes that we cannot believe it, I feel, and then we lock down. We don't want to move further, but it feels to me that most of us are very easily able to work with an 8th dimensional state. It's just that we're here in the 3rd, 4th, 5th dimension connected, you know, so it's like between floors. So it's like there are 3 elevators, you know, almost. It's like 3rd, 4th, and 5th dimension. But there are also ways in which we are traveling between either state, you know. It's like we're not all fully completely in one connected reality, but it feels to me that we're all also not knowing that we are okay, and we question our sanity, and this is why we have a lot of disconnect between people and between one another. It's because we don't sometimes want to believe what we see, feel, taste, and hear, but also there's all these other senses waking up for all of us that are beyond nature, as well as with nature, and also beyond that, like there is a lot of premonition and quantum, you know, synchronistic energy that's happening between us, and this is insane. Also with the growth of, it's not growing as much now, but you know, the growth of internet, you know, the growth of psychic development through online interaction with people, which is ginormous. It's a ginormous power behind evolution at the moment, actually. But then there's also other ways in which we dream and feel and speak and connect that are really beyond the average, like if we really think about what we think is normal. So this is basically the unconscious wave. This is the unconscious scream of us, I feel, you know, and not many people can really quite yet admit it. And it feels to me that through dance, through yoga, through speaking, through laughing, through joy, we can start to touch on these energies. It's just that we do not want to speak about them because we're afraid. It's like, wow, I feel cold and hot at the same time, or like, oh, I can taste what it is to be in this room. You know, I can taste the room more than I can actually be in it. You know, so all these really arty and weird, quirky ways of experiencing reality, which we don't want to know about. And in terms of raising other people's frequency, it feels to me that all we can do is express as many different things as we can to ourselves at first, and perhaps later when the cup runneth over. So it's like when we run over, it's like we have too much energy, we've got too much glee, we've got too much personal condensing with reality. It's like we feel it, we taste it, we smell it, especially as women energetically. We feel everything that we are in such a extreme, or like in such an intense energy, that we then become creatresses. You know, we become creators, and we spill that into the collective mind for our work. But we shouldn't need to go into the depth of it. You know, like if we can say it, okay. You know, if we can write it, okay. If we can dance it, great. But we can also go beyond this. We can just radiate And then there's going to be new modalities of healing, loving, and caring. And these are here now. It's just that we don't have a space for them. People don't believe in themselves enough. They don't feel like, say, that their telepathy is actually what it is. Or they don't feel that they're, like, say, child-minding. It's amazing. It's a miracle. What they can do with a being is a miracle. And they don't understand that that's a miracle. You know, we don't understand that, say, we can laugh and cry the same as another person on the other side of the world already, just through internet experiences, interaction. We can also plug in. We can measure consciousness in such a different way. We can become in love with the world. Perhaps we don't really know what love is anymore because we're in love with everybody, with everything. And there's lots of different measures for creation now that weren't there before. But by trying to put this into the galactic picture, we can't, because this will go out. This is like much faster than we can really form into like one perception. So we can't say, you know, we were in the third dimension, now we're in the fourth, or, you know, the sixth, or the eighth, or the ninth. We can only just understand this that we're feeling. And sometimes also with quantum fields, with quantum reality, the minute that we define something, we put it into a box, it loses its magic, it loses something, you know. The minute that it is touched on or omitted, you know, it is over, it's done. So it's really, really difficult. And it's not to say that these theories are true or false, it's just that somebody might say, yes, we are in the third dimension, and then to another person, this is not true. For many of us, I feel we can go up above towards the eighth, but we don't want to go there yet. We're afraid, or we're sitting still. We do not want to understand what we're feeling, or understanding, or tasting, or smelling, or perceiving, because all the senses are involved here, not just you know, not just energy, not just sight or sound, you know. And this all sort of blurs within all these different realities. So it's all like really a kaleidoscope of possibility. So in terms of where we are now, it feels to me depending on how much we allow ourselves to feel, sense, and understand. So it's just about allowing all these senses to be yours and letting all these energies and all these perceptions run through you, almost like a lightning storm. And that becomes a huge city as well. So allowing feelings and perceptions and senses to run as they are. And also we're in Taurus at the moment. So it's all about the senses for some people. Not exactly. It's a very different Taurus time at the moment. But this is like about letting oneself feel and evolve through that particular reconnection of the now in a very new, true, and very powerful way. So that's basically where we're at, I feel, as a species.
Definitely. Oh, yeah. I mean, it feels that way. Polina, are you open for questions from
Of course, yeah, of course.
Calls in? Okay, we have one. I didn't want to interrupt you, but we have one holding. 1 second.
All right. Yeah.
Hello. Please ask a question. Hello.
Well, it's not so much I have a question. I'd just like to respond to some of the stuff that Polina has shared, because it resonates so strongly with me. And so if that's okay with you, Polina. Yeah?
Yes. Yes, of course.
Okay. Yeah, there's a bit of time delay, Polina, because I'm over in Australia. And I've resonated with so much that you shared this morning. For me, I'm 65 years old now, and I'm content with me. And I may be aging, but I have no intention of growing up. Throughout my life, I've noticed what I call the erosion of innocence. You know, a 2-year-old child is tottering around, and the world is a magical place. And I think, well, that's how we came here. We should be moving up from that. I'm content with me, and it took a while to get there. And for me, it's all about living consciously and taking personal responsibility for your life. So, there's a lot of background noise your end. Taking personal responsibility. As master and commander of my life, I set my life purpose to be to simply find my own truth. So bang, and got the big one out of the way. And as a spiritual being having a human experience, I said to myself, well, how do I want to experience this life? So I set my conscious life intention, which is I am here to have a gentle, joyful, loving, and abundant life. Now, that's how my life is unfolding. And on the subject of feelings, I think feelings are one of the biggest obstacles in people's own growth, because there's this thing in Western society where you're not supposed to show your feelings, but for me, my feelings are my healings. They come to me, and I have to jump into them and express them until they're complete. I felt my way out of depression. I couldn't think my way out of depression, because depression was nothing to do with the mind. It was just, my soul crying out, saying, stop living this lie. You need to live your truth. And just on a practical level, how I got there, I just went back to childhood and healed the wounds from my childhood, because it was in childhood that I first stopped believing in myself. And that's been the cause of all my problems in my life. No longer believing in myself and just believing in the programming. So, yeah, I'm on the same page as you, Polina, and I believe all are equal and all are unique and all are sovereign. And I've come to realize that all I have is my personal life experience, my story, and I know that it is only valid for me. I share it in the hope that it will resonate with others. And as far as consciousness goes, I see consciousness as a huge jigsaw puzzle, and I'm just one little piece. And it is my job to complete me. So as I complete more and more of the picture on my piece of the puzzle, and as more and more people do that, the total picture of consciousness gets clearer. So, yeah, that's pretty profound, eh? But I know I'm just a raindrop in the ocean, but I can still identify as that raindrop. I know who I am, and I am content with me. And for me, the solution is within. I love the Bible, not because I'm religious, but because there's some good stuff in there. That phrase, the Jesus message, I am the way, the truth, the light. That for me was not Jesus' claim. It was his desperate cry for everybody to shout that out with all the energy in their hearts. For I am the way, the truth, the light. And so are you, and so are you, and so are you. The power lies within. That's where I've come to. I'm just a simple bloke, I'm just a simple fitter turner, but I don't own a pair of shoes. I live under a big old mango tree, and I wake up giggling. And it's life is supposed to be ridiculous, eh? We're supposed to be joyful. Yeah, so I could talk for hours on this, Polina, but I'll bow out and I'll stay listening. And if you want to engage in a dialogue, just please call me back in, because this stuff is so vital and it's so simple. I've come to the conclusion that the universe operates under the KISS principle. Keep it simple, sovereign. For it is only the mind that complicates things. The mind's always looking for answers, but I have found all my solutions, and that's two words, solutions. I've found all my solutions within my heart. And they're all simple. So for me, thinking is the weapon of mass distraction. And my mind is just a tool that I use when I choose. Okay. There's a hell of a lot of background noise going on.
Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing.
Well, if I can do it, anybody can, Polina. Hey, that's what I reckon. You just don't have to think,
Polina,
you feel it. Feelings are healings.
Polina, do you have anything in response, I guess? Any contribution?
Yeah, these are some incredible topics. I feel that the truth of your life, like how you said with the shoes and the mango tree, like the truth of your experience and all these like references and feelings and emotions, and I suppose the feelings that you have in you are like so incredible and so important to us, because it feels to me that you are like a library of the unconscious exploration and the conscious world as well, through what you have experienced in your world. It's really interesting to connect to you, and I really respect you, and it really resonates with me as to what you said, and you paint a really beautiful, sturdy picture of this world. So definitely correct, with everything that you say. It's really like peaceful and sound to hear you, and it really feels like it adds a very interesting dimension to what we've just been talking about, because this joins up the different worlds together. It's like really joining up the meat and the bone of the 3D, the practical, and the physical, with all the different, I suppose, quantum feelings and emotions, and all the, I suppose, details that we've been talking about. So it really, really builds it all up into a really nice, sturdy feeling. So thank you so much for sharing and putting it all together, bundling it all together for us like this. It's really nice.
Well, life is awesome, Polina. My life is awesome. And, I've faced my own death a dozen times. Last year I lost everything to Cyclone Debbie. But for me, as master and commander of my life, I create my life, and I never worry about why something happens, because the why is in the past. And the answer to the why is always the same. I've created this event, for it contains a lesson that I need to learn. And so the lesson I learned last year when I lost my boat to Cyclone Debbie was to totally let go of the attachment to things. I saved my two little dogs and myself and came ashore. And although I lost all my sort of material possessions, the value of that lesson was priceless. So now the stuff I have in my life, its only value is for its utility. It helps me do stuff. Like I've got a box of tools so I can fix my car. But that's it. I know now what is important to me. It's what I love. And for me, it was learning to love me again after having it all beaten out of me as a child. For me, the inner child work was my most essential first step to heal the wounds of childhood, and it was transformational. I now know who I am, and I'm content, and I can speak my truth quietly. And, I love this one. What other people think of me is none of my business, and my life is none of theirs. So, I don't talk about lawnmowers and stuff anymore, It's like, I love to sit around a table and share the talking stick with people that are similarly sharing their own personal life experience. Because for me, at the end of the day, that is all I have. That is all I possess. My story, my journey, my personal life experience. All opinions are worthless. Okay, Polina. If you're on Facebook, I'll see if I can friend you. If not, you can find. I use my dog's Facebook page, Barnaby Eden, if you want to send her a friend request.
Thank you.
And keep on giggling. Keep on giggling. It's what we're here for.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And you can find Polina on Organic Frequency Radio and connect to her through it. No problem at all. So thank you so much
I'm on that page.
For your time. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
No worries.
It's good. It's actually a very good point that the gentleman brought up, is the losing everything is a very powerful experience, because I myself, and Stephanie can pitch in as well, if she wishes. Materialistic wise, yeah, it's a very powerful experience. Me coming from high corporate job. I mean, I started out also not having anything, and then I built it up, and then just this past year, I literally lost it all, and kind of drastically too. So it's those kind of experiences really humbles you, and I mean humbles me, or I would say probably any person would, and really shows you what is important. What is my value, what is my value to me without anything that I used to have. So that's a powerful lesson and experience to bring in one's life. So I'm there with it.
Yeah, definitely. That's losing everything has definitely been challenging and interesting. The thing that I've gotten out of it, though, is that I used to be in a place where I had plenty of income, and going to the store to buy all organic foods was not a problem. I would walk into the store and I would buy what I wanted, and I would go home and I'd have all my superfoods, like the hemp seeds and the chia seeds and the bee pollens, and I would go to the farmer's market and I would get like all the fresh stuff, and and I just had like an abundance of money for things like that. And when people would come to me for nutrition advice, I would tell them that really you just have no other option other than to buy those foods. That's all there is. That's the only option there is. Because I didn't remember what it was like to not have. So now that I've been in this place, it makes it a lot easier to kind of relate to people that like literally are like making a choice between like buying food and keeping their electric bill on. Do you know what I mean? So it's made me value a lot of things a lot more, like my time with my children. I value so much more, and I really love having Kai because it helps me stay very much in the now, very present, because you have to be present. So when he's playing with bubbles, I can't be over there working on my computer. I have to be playing bubbles with him, or bubbles are going to be all over the place. You know what I mean? So I get to play with bubbles, and it was so fun because I don't know if you've seen Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but the house looked like that the other day because we had bubbles going like all over the place. It was so much fun. So that's kind of been my experience with it. It's been very humbling, but I think that I've really come to that place. Like, I have to understand that people are coming from all different levels and all different places. So it makes it a lot easier to relate to people.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Compassion. It takes us also to a compassion point as well,
Right.
How, I mean, and it's funny because for me, for example, I would see the reflection of people. Like, I've gone through experiences where, they're promising help and then they choose financial stability or finances over helping someone who needs real help. And like, I really see the dynamics of it, and it's almost like it's like a theater for me. I mean, yes, it will hurt a little bit, but then I'll see the whole picture and I'm like, wow, we are really struggling over here. People are really like chasing the materialistic world so hard still, even those that already kind of getting it. But it's hard, and I get it. I understand, but it's interesting to observe how it brings out in people that hunger for, or fear out of hunger out of fear, and of course
right.
It's just another step in the process. another step.
Right.
Like, compassion comes from it. Like, you see it, like, you understand. And
yeah. And then it's also kind of taught me too that like we do need people, because that's been one of my things. Like I always just wanted to like move into the woods and like live by myself and live off land and like not need anyone else and like never have to encounter people. Like maybe every once in a while be like that old witch lady that's so mysterious to the town that comes into town every once in a while with her robe on, and like everybody's so afraid of her. Yeah, like I totally thought that was going to be me with like a million cats or whatever. Unfortunately, like I have kids and they're not letting me do that. They refuse to let me do that. But I think it's taught me like kind of like the need for community. Definitely, because like we do need people. We need to be around other people, like especially for me because I have kids, like they need to be around other people. We can't just like stay holed up and be hermits and protect ourselves from the world by just staying away from everyone.
Okay, so everything is metaphorical, and that's something that I feel we don't understand as a species. We still don't understand that everything is a metaphor. And what we have with the financial system and the systems of attainment is a very class system. We think there's different mathematical alignment, but sometimes, you know, like I've been the happiest and most productive in a state where I am neither nor interested in money and attainment, nor do I suffer. It just becomes like a wave. It's sort of like you trust it after a while, it becomes an organic system. It is very, very possible to make it an organic system that just looks after you, and it's something that is similar to the earth. You know, we can create a monetary mind or like a monetary connection within ourselves that is not succumbing to or counting or reducing oneself down to a role or anything like that. So it is possible. It is not just about following your purpose and having pride in you, but that as a part of it. It's more like the dimension of cash, money, attainment, numbers, the bigger house and the biggest cars and all these things. They're very vulnerable dimensions, and I think that's what we don't understand. We think having a house and having a car and having all these beautiful things is not what it seems, perhaps, but we think that there is something better out there within that realm for us. And that actually is a metaphor. Sometimes we just want to be craved and normalized, and there's usually a very unique psychological formula behind anybody's lack or need for, or class, in terms of attainment, in terms of money. And usually people don't understand this, that they don't want to know this, but there is a unconscious situation that takes place before the financial or the spiritual, the practical, the valuable happens to us. So what this means to me is that it's all rubble. For us, it's all rubble unless we are psychologically and emotionally prepared to receive it. And this is it basically. If I'm not, for example, a person that has a lot, I use one suitcase, and I have one card. I just have a card, and got a passport and suitcase. That's all I have. But for many of us, this is not about reducing it down to just the basics, although for some people it is. It's actually more about the purpose and the focus of your soul. So making a soul urge more important, energetically more important. So, for example, becoming a lawyer, not because one wants a house and a family and 2 or 3 cars and the ticket to the Bahamas every season. It's not about this. It's more about the concentration of energy beyond it. So the psyche needs to be ready for something else. So, for example, if this person is driven by purpose, or they have maybe even some kind of wound that is giving them a very, very strong mind, that is the underlay for the money and the financial attainment. If a person is just chasing the car and the house, they become empty promises, or the matrix just produces them as an empty shell for oneself. But if one wants to create a very nice unison or unifying feeling between what they are becoming, what they have become, or what they're going towards, and the financial sustainability of their world, they don't need to worry about class. This was something a worry for me, and it is sometimes still. It's like, but people in different parts of the world really suffer. But a dollar can buy me a lot in Cambodia. Like, what am I doing? Like, why do I need to live over here? And really questioning the integrity of the financial and physical world for all peoples involved all around the world. This could be a big twister for the mind. But then if we just consider like the moment in time, occasionally we can see that there's countless amounts of opportunities to generate great amounts of experiences, and then the experience becomes the measure of wealth. How the gentleman suggested. It is the experience that is the measure of wealth, and it is all in the heart, which then creates an organic reality. Because for some of us, we may not see this, but for us, having things can be a burden, but we don't understand it's a burden on us. But it all depends on the individual. And for others, it's more about taking care of, maybe even hoarding or having too much, and that's not okay either, but there is a strategy of this. So there is an energetic, psychological, and unconscious psychic strategy behind money. It's just that we don't want to see it, and we're thinking about it in 3D connective ways. It's like, should I go in the forest and live by myself with, like a water tower and solar panels, or should I live in a van, or should I live in the States, should I have like a big mansion, should I have a penthouse apartment? And all of these ideas are not wrong. It just depends on how your unconscious psyche and your unconscious reality is treasuring you, and how you feel a treasure within yourself, which then becomes your energetic capacity to generate these experiences, which are not actually real. They're just a metaphor for what you need at the time. And of course, it is not wrong. There's more and more of us waking up, and we want to affect the greater grids, and there's lots of people that are no longer sorry anymore, and they want to create attainment. They want to create powerful positions for themselves in the government and other systems because they believe in what they've got, and they want to share their energetic gifts and their psychic and really vulnerable natural capacities. I actually was talking to a woman yesterday about this. She's in Brazil, and she wants to affect large corporate systems, and she's nature herself. There's a lot of us coming from these experiences. We want to go up to those levels, but there is a separation, there's a classes divide, and we've got to lower our, integrity and peace that we place in physical attainment, and heighten our feeling of self-worth and self-connection to the universal mind, and trust that we are working with God, and trust that God works through us. And then we become more opposite to what we've been before. So we're not waiting for the paycheck. We're not worried about the meal. We are more interested about the purpose. And sometimes this is something that happens to me. I worry about the time spent because, money's time, time is money. It's not just like that. It's more about, I worry about the person that I could be in the moment. So it's like, what is the worth of your time? That's not about money. It's more about what can I make, what I can create for myself and for others in my second of time or my minute of time, as to what I used to be able to generate or be able to believe. It's about faith in the end. It's about God and faith in the end. What was I able to push through energetically and believe in 1 minute of time or 10 minutes of time before, and what I can establish now? So time becomes worthy of greater things, and then as time is worthy of more, your quantum field is able to generate more physical, first mentality, which then connects to a larger game, larger spectrum of luxury or larger spectrum of attainment. But that's not the point. The point is your worth and the purpose that you're living. And of course, like we look at Tony Robbins and we think, oh my God, the airplanes, the mansions, the people that are wealthy going to him. But that's not the point. The point is that he's burning bright and he values his frequency. He is in love with his own time, which then creates or radicalizes his state of being able to attain. But this is not it. This is not for everybody, because we also go through different cycles of life, and we're all karmically wired into different type of perspective. Some people are here, they're old, they're living out their previous lives. They just want to remember something. They just collect memorabilia, or they just live very simply. And another person might be here energetically to die or to contain themselves, to go inwards and to dream. And then there's other people that are meant to really burst through and push on through and be the hero or be the victor. And then there's other people beyond that. There's lots and lots and lots of us that are different because the worth is different. And then to understand one's worth and one's emotional, physical, spiritual, and energetic focus is what brings you that unconscious glow, the unconscious, it's almost like a thread that generates money on top of it. It is like this. It's basically like bacteria. It's a little bit like organic. It's very organic. Money can be very organic. It's like for a bacteria to live in a petri dish, one might need to create a certain type of environment for that to happen. So this is what we basically have to do in terms of our soul purpose and our soul connection within the form and within what we're doing, to need less, but to understand what it is like to attain, as well at the same time. So it's not about needing, it's just about creating the right energetic and unconscious, like psychic formula in order to be able to radicalize, the spending and, the incoming. And it's not really about manifestation alone, because we don't quite know that yet. We don't quite know that yet. It's not about just manifestation. It's about your own natural connection to yourself, which then creates a nice sturdy psyche, which doesn't put anything out. Because, sometimes people can attain, but then they lose something else. They can lose their health, or they can lose their loved ones and things like that. So creating the right formula, the right, it's like an ecosystem to generate more money. But sometimes also we can't handle that, because some people make a lot of worth, but they don't really understand what it is for them, or they don't understand the concept of it. So everything in proportion, basically. There are lots and lots and lots of also divination to this. There's also lots of ways in which other people have attained without this formula, but it feels to me that's the most organic way, or one of the more organic ways of how to work within the monetary system without caving ourselves in as well.
Do you see changes in monetary system anytime soon?
So I'm seeing that there's different types of layers of society, and sometimes the conscious of the world is going along a strand. It feels to me that the people that are most prominent in the collective conscious and the collective psyche are those that are starting to become more freeing with money. They're becoming a little bit more concerned about their inner wealth, what they think is inner wealth, but that is just narcissism, or like the sharing of wisdom. There's like a lot of different types of misconceived feelings there, but there are also hidden layers. This is not straightforward. There will always be the ultimately rich, and there's always going to be the ultimately poor, but the overtone of strategy, with social media, with what I see from, the Western world, and also what I see around here, and even with the locals, is that there's an upheaval of one's own inner world, inner worth, and that's where people are going, which actually, surprisingly to me, relieves a lot of social classes and eventually, inevitably, financial stresses. So it feels to me that the stress is gone from where it was like 2 or 3 years ago. So I feel that people are not as competing, and also they're not as perhaps competent with money as they used to be. So I feel that it's got a little bit less value and a lot more hope and peace within it, as we're growing within our own valuing of self. But this is going to end, and there's going to be a change, there's going to be a change, there's going to be a change. But this is not the best way to evaluate one's own socioeconomic status through what is going on with the world, although it's nice to notice what is. I mean, it feels to me that there is a relief, financial relief, probably from Jupiter going through Libra for a while, as well. So second house, collective second house of Taurus right now. So it feels to me that there is a more meaningful feeling in terms of money and attainment, and like, what am I here for? What am I doing? As you say with your workshops and people wanting to know who they are. But the reason why I don't usually I don't work with financial system with other people. I've got Neptune in the second house, one of the reasons why, but also I'm noticing that the socioeconomic system of the world has got its own shadow and its own interest, and there's lots of different ways in which it encapsulates people, and it uses fear and economic stress of their ancestors in all these different ways in order to create a certain type of path where, of course, the rich stay rich and the poor stay poor. But it feels to me, when we create our own organic feeling about who we are, we can make money from nothing. I'm serious. We can make financial experiences that are kosher and that are holding us together. And at the same time, we don't actually have to work so hard or strain to do it. And this is not about manifestation. This is not some secret golden ticket. It's just about being true to you. And when you understand, say, how your Jupiter is placed in your chart, what your sign is about, how your energy works in your chart, you can conceive greater ideas in terms of money. But this is not something that becomes the purpose. Money becomes like a side effect. It's just like an offshoot of life. It is not at all what we're looking at here. It's more about the dimensions in which you travel and the quality of your moment. So coming back to the first topic that we talked about, the quality of the here and now.
What I want to do first, before getting closer to the end, because we actually have about 30 minutes left, But first, I would like to share your information with our listeners. Polina, I'm going to give the website, the Facebook, and your YouTube. Is that all that is available for everybody? Yeah, okay. So what I will do, and I will post another post separately on our Facebook page, Organic Frequency Radio. But Polina's website is www.polina, which is Polina, Outkina, which is Outkina. It's all one word, .com. And the Facebook page is facebook.com/Polina Outkina Psychic Astrologer. And it's all spelled out, no space between. And the YouTube, I think you just have to put Polina Outkina, Outkina there and find it, because yeah. And also please check out Polina's books on Amazon.com. She has 3 books. And Polina, do you want to chat a little bit about your 3 books?
Yeah, so the story with the books is very interesting to me. So basically, when I was going through a consciousness awakening, I used to not be able to stop. It's not thinking, it's not thought, it's just generating information. So it's just extreme fertility of information. You know, sometimes, like say you put baking soda and Coca-Cola together or something, and it just becomes like overflowing. It's just foam, lots of foam. So it was basically like that. It was non-stop. It was like floodgates of information. And I didn't really know what to do. And basically, I ended up writing numerous books, and I'm just beginning to publish them. I have a lot more. I've got about another 6 or 7 books. And they're basically questions that I have. So, for example, if I don't know how to use my shadow, I don't know how to connect to my shadow, I end up channeling a book for me as a manual for me, and then as a side effect, I publish my stuff. So I've got 3 books. I have an almanac as well that comes out once a year. At the moment, it's probably just the 3 books that I want to talk about beyond the almanac. So I have Unleash the Beast, which is basically a way to work with shadow. It's very primal. It's very tribal. I had what I feel as the Dogons come through when I was channeling this book, and it wasn't really about me or you or anybody, just about really old knowledge of your body, you know, being able to be natural and structured and well placed in this world, beyond 3D, beyond even, you know, the different positions that we put in as people. It's a very, very handy book for somebody who just wants a quick wake-up call. It's 127 thoughts in self-mastery, and it's basically just flick through the book, and then you find your topic, and you find what feels like it belongs to you, like all the different shadows and all the different confusions that we have in the modern world. And then basically very simple answers to very simple things. I mean, my favorite way to use the book is to flick to a random page and see what comes up, because quite usually it's very true. So it's just a big wake-up call. It's like snapping oneself out of patterns and realities that are ongoing. That's a pretty good book. It's just that it's weird to talk about it because to me it's an old friend. Like, it's just weird to talk about it. I've just let it go completely. Then there's a Quantum Leap, which is more about the orgasm within that form, but it is not sexual. It's not about sex. This is about tantric energy and the use of the Kundalini for your own interest. So using the energy of Kundalini not for something else, not to be harvested by anything, and not to harvest yourself for other people. It's more about the natural force of life, and then how to energetically push through boundaries and barriers that perhaps we do not know that we have. So it's just about radiating one's own purpose, which is just to be energetically. Inevitably, that's just that one thing, you know, just to be able to alchemize frequency. So that's actually a really good book. I really enjoy that book. And then there is a recent book that it's quite funny. It's quite random. I connected somehow to the feeling of novels and the feeling of fairy tales, and I was thinking about writing perhaps like a Harry Potter type of book. I don't know what it was. Just to walk, between those dimensions was quite interesting for a while. So I wrote another book, and it's called The Dreamer. And it's more about the tarot. So it's about the higher karma and the tarot. I don't practice the tarot anymore, but that's how I started, and a lot of that knowledge is still within me now. And that was just a way of passing on old information, and it's just about two lovers, and it's really leisurely. It's about how the astral works and how people connect. It's very, very goopy and like kind of feminine, and it's very soft and it's very cuddly as a book. It is not really connected energetically to me anymore. I think I was just evolving through my fascia at the time, so I was just looking at the different ancestral pictures and the way of painting life, and also connecting to eternity through the now. And it was a very meditative experience. So I feel the better part of the book is the quality of the actual quality of the information. It's not like a manual like the first two. The first two are really brutal books. This is more the tapestry of the now, expressed through word. It's really dreamy and fantastic, and it is very, very connective. And I'm just on the way of publishing another couple of books. I've got another one coming up on autism, and also the evolution of the psyche. So that's something that's been with me for a long time. Being on a spectrum, on an autistic spectrum, being what people would say below or beyond the norm. And so talking about how to address these issues for yourself and other people, how to understand the spectrum of autism and what it is to belong to a certain type of consciousness crisis, and how to find your way, like weave your way out of instability, and how to understand oneself. Plus also talking, to the loved ones of people that have these problems, and what are the karmic ties and things like that. So that's just basically a beginning of a new era, I suppose, helping people solve really difficult problems, dealing with very difficult issues and stuff like that. Plus I got a couple of astrology manuals that I'm going to eventually publish when I have the time to edit them. But yeah, so basically those are the books. The YouTube channel, I think, is worthwhile to have a look at, definitely. It's got a lot of fresh insights, plus a daily blog where I channel information for every day. But if it's not right for you, it's not right for you. It's not something that's a doctrine. It's not something that I am, in deep belief of. It's basically just something that happens. So I just channel most of the time. I just sit down and I write, and I don't know how I feel. So I just basically put that out onto, onto text. And that's like a self reconnection. It's like understanding of self, trying to find the voice for something inside, which is just a lot of connection. Like, I'm a very connected person, I suppose. So that's basically just a byproduct, like the channeling and the books and YouTube and the written text and things like that. It's like a byproduct of being consciously always awake, basically being unable to not be awake. So, and constant, I suppose, worship of God, constant process of evolution. So I'm always constantly like teaching myself new things. So I'm constantly in the process of evolution, like self-teaching, and basically everything that I put out there is not the important bit. The important bit is what I'm feeling within. And then these products or these things that I do, I just it's just a connection point of how to express it to myself, and then they end up somehow being online. So it's an inner journey. So the journey is very personal, very interconnected, but for some reason it's very spot on and very correct for others. And then that leads me to the work that I do for other people. So sometimes it's not enough to know myself. Occasionally.
Polina, are you there? Well, Polina, if you come back, just let us know, because I still see you being here. But well, I'm glad if she got cut out, then I'm glad it's at the end. Yeah, she just left. Maybe she'll call back, but we'll see. So
Okay.
That's great. She finished well, even though she cannot come back. She finished well. So just once again, her website is PolinaOutkina.com, which is PolinaOutkina.com. And when you go there, you will see pretty much all the books and blog, and I think there's an access to Facebook as well. And also her YouTube is very active as well. So that's kind of sum up. But, well, what a great show. Very good show. Stephanie, do you have anything to contribute before?
No, it was really good. I always like talking to her because I always find that like after I've talked to her, and then I think there's probably like a couple other people that I talk to that give insight, that it just like really resonates with kind of what I've been feeling. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like confirmation that things are just kind of moving the way they're supposed to, you know? Not really to struggle through it, just kind of like be with it, be present, be still.
Well, yeah.
And I like that philosophy. It works for me. It's my favorite.
Well, yeah, because, you know, we started out pushing life, and, you know, first I was listening to gurus where they were saying, not even gurus, those that already kind of crossed that line of not pushing anymore, and that's what they said, just stop. You just stop.
Well,
stop.
right? And that's the hardest part.
And whatever
is,
stop
like,
means.
Getting out of, well, you have to get out of, like, the fear programming of, like, what the hell am I going to do? And, like, I'm not going to say I don't ever have those thoughts, because every once in a while I do have those thoughts, but what I have realized and noticed, like, throughout, like, this whole entire process of humbling, that's what I'll call it, my process of humbling, it's that I've always had enough. Like, I might not have everything that I, like, want, but I always have had enough. And something always comes through. Something always comes up. And it's never been where I expected it to come from, but it's always happened, you know? So things always work out. Things are in alignment the way that they are for a reason. So I'm not saying, like, you stay where you're at and just, like, sit there, but be wherever you're at and get where you want to be.
Yeah, well, flow of life. Yeah. Well,
yeah, and I like what you said too. I like what Polina was talking about too. Like, dude, like, we don't all have to be like rich and famous like Tony Robbins. That's not necessarily a goal, and that's something that I've battled with too. Is like, dude, like, I don't want to be on TV and like do all those things. I just want to like chill on the beach and have like, I don't know, like fresh juice served to me every once in a while, and maybe do some stuff online. I don't know, you know what I mean? But like, I know for sure that like I don't want like my name out there so like everybody in the whole entire world knows it. Unless it's for the radio show, of course. Then in that case we can do that.
Here we go.
But I think for me it's kind of like a balance in between there, but leaning closer on the sit on the beach side.
You definitely love the beach. I mean, that's a given right there. Yeah.
And I don't know. I think she's right, though. I think when we look back at the experience when we're 80 years old, if we even make it to 80, doubt it, because I think we're going to jump off a cliff before then. But like, I really think that, like, we'll look back and be like, oh, my God, like, remember that time when, you know what I mean? And it'll just be, like, such a small part of our history or our story this go round that, like, we'll have fond memories of it all.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's always interesting and fun. I mean, and that's the thing, when you get to the point of releasing, like, the fear aspect of it, of not knowing, because that's the point, like, of not knowing what's going to be next moment and being in this moment, just like what we talked about majority of the show, is, you know, it's fine. Like, you start really allowing life to show you where to go by moving you there, you know, by giving you certain things when you need it. Like, I've already started experiencing that too. The minute I'm like, oh my God, I absolutely have no cash, and here it is, you know, it's kind of like, here's that, kind of slowly pointing you out where small things are arriving and arising, you know, like, and you're like, okay, now I can eat. So
right.
It's like, you know, it's true.
I
like,
kept my cell phone on for the month. Good job. Which is so funny because I always, like, my bills used to be paid like beforehand, like early in advance. Everything was on time, if not in advance. I always prided myself in having like a perfect credit score and all that other crap.
Well, yeah, it means nothing. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and I think Polina is back. So let me bring her back very quickly and see, talk to her very quickly the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, definitely.
Polina, Polina,
Hi.
are you back? Hi.
Yeah, I'm definitely back. I'm so sorry. The internet just cut off. I'm in Bali. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's not a problem. So yeah, you have like maybe 5-10 minutes to kind of finish up. And I think you already shared the information. I finished up saying more about your website, and I will post those links on our Facebook page on Organic Frequency, so listeners will have that access directly if they're not connected to you on your Facebook. So not to worry, I'll do it right away. Yeah, we talked about a lot, and I know it's usually the flow. We are very organically casual station, but it's always nice to kind of sum up for those that maybe just joined now, because we do archive it, and if they joined right now, they'll know what to look for if they want to go back and listen to it. So do you kind of want to give a brief summary of what, how do we see the world and connect to it without trauma, and, how to be now, present, what it means, what it represents?
I guess like the show was mainly, it's actually really interesting because it's like a full moon in Scorpio at the moment. The show was, it feels to me, based around that, but there's also different offshoots that we talked about. It feels to me that we basically started exploring somehow the psyche and also the different interdimensional states in which one presents themselves the quality of the now. So how to be present, how to really feel the quality of yourself and the quality of the moment that you're having, and then that's sprung onto physical attainment and what is important in one's world, but also how to affect other people and how to be within the spectrum of possibility, and not to, I guess, get drowned out by all these worries and all these hurts that you feel. And also, I suppose, about the different dimensions of the psyche, about how we associate with trauma and how to start reassociating with your now without having to pour so much time out into trying to get things perfect. And the main feeling, like, out of this conversation for me, for some reason, was the height of frequency, the height of energy that is available to us now. As I'm not just like channeling whatever, like I'm also feeling into you guys, into your field, and sometimes whoever listens in as well. So I feel the opposite of density. It's just like looking through the types of energies that are available to us now through feeling and sensing and connecting and allowing vulnerability. So it's just about the frequency, like the quality of soul that we have now as a species collectively is really extraordinary, and it's just about touching on those feelings. It's about touching on those subjects of self and, those subjects of understanding that are beyond speech, that are beyond speech. So it's just about, how the gentleman called before, and he said, it is all about being in the heart, so allowing one's own heart to sense and feel and discover the moment for what it is without having to be too mindy about things. So yeah, so it's like the different ways in which we feel, I feel, is the overlaying feeling of the session, for me anyway.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I feel the energy as well, the frequency. In fact, just kind of out of my amusement, the last couple of shows, like 2 shows we couldn't run, I think because of my heightened frequency. But I worked on it and I balanced it out, so I made sure you get on this time. But I think I was interfering in the past couple of weeks because I jumped up quite high, and then I am now balanced well within myself. At least that's what it feels like. And today I had no problems at all connecting to the studio and everything like that. So you are right. Not that you're, I'm questioning it, but I'm just agreeing. I'm just agreeing. So, well, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. We are at the end of the show, and I'm going to finish it up with 5 minutes on my own because Stephanie already jumped out. She had to go. But thank you so much for joining today. It is full moon. It is very unique, interesting full moon, at least for me, and I believe for you as well, as you said. And it was perfect timing for you to be the guest on our show. And would love to have you back sometime again, of course, to reconnect at a certain different point. And that's it. I thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you again. And I tend to follow you on YouTube. Yeah, I tend to follow you on YouTube quite often because your information resonates with me. And just like Stephanie mentioned earlier, what she got out of the show is another confirmation of what's happening and how we are and what to be and how to be. So it just resonates quite well with me as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Really beautiful to learn through you as well. Definitely, it's like very nice to absorb the energy in your field. You've got a very, very fascinating style. There's like so much going on. I feel within me now, like I'm feeling very inspired through what you bring into the space, what you bring. So thank you so much for connecting and for allowing, and for having me on the show, of course, and for mentioning a few things that perhaps I wasn't quite ready to talk about yet, and it was just really beautiful to remember things anew. So thank you so much for you. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Polina, and we'll definitely bring you back again in the future. Stay connected, and I'm looking forward to check out your books. And have a lovely day on your beautiful island over there.
Thank you. Yes, it is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a lovely, lovely day. Well, we have about 5 minutes left, and Stephanie already departed. And what I wanted to raise voice to is my Vimeo on demand page, where I have my body, mind, and heart integration classes. My concentration is I connect whoever is open to their body, bring self-awareness into their body, into their mind processes and their heart, and integrate all of that through movement classes, through energy qigong classes, slow movement, through self-reflection sessions within the classes, and my guided meditations. So they wrap it up very nicely of a state of being where you feel whole. All parts are talking together. They're all intertwined together. You're not thinking one thing, saying another, and doing a third. So you are all complete within yourself, which is a very important foundation to have to create a holistic life in this matrix, in this world. So my website is for Vimeo.com is Vimeo.com, which is Vimeo.com /Oksana Ganchar, OXNAGONCHAR /VOD _pages, PAGES, and you'll find all the classes there. If you have any questions for me, you can also call me directly at 202-930-2530. So it's 202-930-2530. You can find me on Facebook. It's at Be Ancient Wisdom, all one word. You can also find me on Instagram. It's Oksana __ Ganchar, OXNA __ GONCHAR. I'm also active on YouTube, so you can also find me there under my name as well. I have a lot of like health and wellness tips there. I have like my spur of the moment dance sessions. I am getting more into the dance, and I am actually a dancer for a holistic group that is based out of San Francisco. So it's a lot of fun. I will be traveling there quite a bit. Um, since right now I'm still located in Los Angeles area, and I'm starting to write books. I am writing for Sivana Spirit, and in fact, you can check out one of my articles there. I am talking about how unity between body, mind, and heart creates health and happiness. So that's my first article that was published. I think about, I don't know, maybe a week or two ago, something like that. But I'm also working on autobiography book, and I have a few ideas for the next coming up books that I've been slowly working on. So just stay connected and and check out my work on social media as well. So, but that's something. That's it that I want to wrap it up with this amazing radio today. And Stephanie and I, we will chat with you next Monday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. Please check out our Facebook page. It's Organic Frequency Radio, all one word. Check it out. Yes, it's at Organic Frequency Radio. We post all the radio shows there. Everything is there. So connect, check out, be our guest. And that is it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will chat with you next Monday.